Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. Work programs are underway in Finland and Canada. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol ADD, on Frankfurt symbol 82A1, and the OTCQB symbol ASDZF. Please visit our website arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Kris Sims, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Welcome back to the show, Kris.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Kris, Premier John Horgan of BC says, he's worried about high gasoline prices. For the rest of Canada, BC paying more than $1.70 a litre, a record high, and also the highest prices in North America. What's he doing about it?
That's a great question, and it's one of those strange moments where you wonder if you're in an alternate universe, because now, all of a sudden, it seems the politicians care about the fact that we're paying the highest price for gasoline in all of North America, which is super weird because they're the main reason why we are paying this at the pump, especially with BC NDP Premier John Horgan. So, for example, we've got the carbon tax here in British Columbia. It's $40 a ton, and with GST tacked onto it, that works out to about 9.8 cents per litre. So you can add that up. Costs an extra $7 for a family sedan, an extra $10 for a pickup truck, $17 for a slightly bigger pickup truck. That's a provincial tax, and it's one that he's super proud of. So much so that they've made the carbon tax here higher even than the one that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is trying to force on the rest of Canada. So if he really cares about high pump prices, he should reduce the tax bill. There's also, of course, the TransLink tax for your listeners there in Metro Vancouver. Now, depending on when they're putting it up, I've heard two different things. I heard that they put it up April 1st. I've also heard that they're putting it up on July 1st instead. Either way, it's going to be 18.5 cents per litre. So there you go. You're already looking at close to 30 cents difference in Metro Vancouver and British Columbia at the pump. And those are provincial taxes. There's also the dedicated BC motor fuel tax, which is 6.7 cents per litre. And then if you look federally, the only real federal part of that is the GST, which is the tax on tax, and the federal excise tax. And one of the big causes of the high cost of fuel in Metro Vancouver is because we need to import something like 30%. We are gas starved for refined fuels in the Lower Mainland. And one of the reasons for that is because we don't have the Trans Mountain Pipeline twinned yet. If they twin the pipeline, they can put more refined fuel, more gasoline down the existing pipe. Because the one that's in there right now, the existing pipe is, for lack of a better term, it's a multi-use pipe. They can switch which fuel they're putting it down it. If they twin it, there you go. You've opened up more capacity. So here we have Premier John Horgan basically blockading that pipe. So he's strangling supply, forcing us to buy it at a huge markup and premium from already strapped Washington state refineries. And he's jacking up the carbon tax while complaining about gas prices. It's absolutely bizarre. Carbon tax cheerleaders, as I call them, for them, this is a feature, not a bug. They want gasoline to be unaffordable for people. They want it to be so unaffordable that we then need to walk to the grocery store, not to drive our kids to hockey at 6 in the morning, and not take that family road trip to see grandma out in the Okanagan, because they don't want us to be able to afford gasoline. That's the purpose of carbon taxes. That is the purpose. So for him to stand around and say that he doesn't like this high cost, well, he better grab a mirror.
Well, downtown Victoria, definitely walkable. Downtown Vancouver, if you live there, definitely walkable.
Sure.
Once you're out of those city cores, transit works again around the city cores okay. Vancouver's well served. Once you get out of Vancouver, good luck.
Exactly. So, newsflash to our politicians, not everybody lives a walking distance from a SkyTrain station or from a really good rapid transit bus route. It isn't just trains. They can use buses to great effect. But lots of people don't live there. And lots of people have jobs and work and family and groceries that don't work on transit. So if you've got an acetylene torch and a lot of your tools, you're not wheeling that up onto a bus. You're putting it into your enclosed pickup truck with your lockbox in the back. That's how things work. And further, even if you are fortunate or if you happen to live near enough to a SkyTrain station or a walkable area, that's great. Honestly, living car-free in a downtown urban setting can be really pleasant for a lot of people. But we need to keep in mind that all of their stuff is trucked to them, including everything they eat. So all those groceries that they're buying at, Save on Foods or Buy Low or wherever they're getting it, that was brought into them on a truck that burns diesel, usually a refrigerated truck that's burning diesel. So we rely on oil and gas, and when they make those things more expensive, everything becomes more expensive. So if he's trying to make life more affordable for more British Columbians, buddy, he's got to hit the books.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, Recycling Trade Publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims. Saturday, they held the annual 420 event at Sunset Beach in Vancouver. And the park board, city council, the police went to panic stations. It's like this event had never happened before. They said people are going to overdose on pot. They're going to trample the park to death. But the park board refused to cooperate with these people. We won't give them a permit. Why not? Why not make money on it to cover the costs?
This is a great question. And so, I've got pretty complicated personal views on this stuff. The issue here is that this substance, cannabis marijuana, is legal now. Legal with an L. It's pretty much as legal as, say, beer or wine. Obviously with some differences where, secondhand smoke and things like that will take into effect, whereas drinking doesn't have the same effect as far as another person goes around you. From a taxpayer perspective, we were concerned with the very high policing costs that are being borne by taxpayers because this is still called a protest. It's not as, a festival. It's not being booked as a festival. But again, there's problems on both sides because apparently the 420 organizers say, well, we'd like a permit. They say they're trying to get a permit, but the Vancouver Park Board won't give them one. And yet on the other side of things, well, you do need to police things, maybe not necessarily to the degree that they're worried about an overdose, but God forbid you have a bunch of people in a big wide open area, you need to be able to protect those people from, again, God forbid, an attack. So if you've got a bunch of vulnerable people in one big crowded area, it stands to reason that you must protect them with policing. But what's super frustrating is that we've got adults on both sides, people at the park board, and longtime organizers with the 420 movement. I've talked with Dana Larson and Jody Emery for about 15 years as a journalist in my professional career. Smart people on both sides. Why haven't they worked this out? Why haven't they figured out how to either give them a permit to do it in the park or find another venue on top of that that's easier to protect? Maybe there's an open-air stadium, say, where you can protect it more easily because it has a solid perimeter, and then you're not worried about, any crazy person with a vehicle, and then you can charge, admission to it and then still have your paid-for vendor booths. You sign a waiver when you go in that there will be smoking on the premises, something like that, so that it becomes a private club for the duration of that festival. There's all sorts of options that these folks could do, but it seems like they're both talking past each other. And meanwhile, taxpayers are stuck with the bill. What I was happy to see, there were pictures posted on social media after the event, and it looks like the park was really nicely cleaned up afterwards. From what you could see in the pictures, doesn't look like there's one spot of litter, which was really good to see.
Yeah, now, the reason there's the no smoking in parks bylaw has nothing to do with secondhand smoke. It's because of the litter.
Yeah.
Smokers are litterers.
Yeah.
And I've proposed for years that there should be a 2 or 3 cent deposit on each cigarette so that the homeless can gather up the cigarette butts because smokers, for some reason, can't find the nearest garbage can. And they'll gladly clear up because that's, if you look at any trash on the street, it's 90% of it is smoking related.
True.
So people with marijuana don't leave marijuana butts.
No, it didn't look like they did.
Well,
which
no,
was
they
nice
don't.
To see, you know?
No, they use the whole thing. They're not going to
Exactly.
throw away a valuable product.
That's a good point.
Also, as a taxpayer, I'm concerned because it looks like the prices they're charging in the store are 2 or 3 times as much as what you pay on the black market.
This is the key, and this is what we were really worried about. And I must say, they did good outreach. When the BC government were talking about this and on how to implement it, I went over and I met with Mike Farnworth, and it seemed like they were listening. But again, it's a complicated thing, and the catch was, what we said was, make sure you're not reinventing the wheel. So if you already have a distribution model for, say, beer and wine or alcohol, you know, obviously twin it. You know, don't try to start from scratch because
Just
otherwise you're going to
wherever it's legal
money.
to sell alcohol, sell pot.
There you go, because you already have the infrastructure, you already have the supply lines, you already have people checking ID. It's right there, potato, okay? And the other key, don't make it so expensive so that you're taxing yourself out of the legal market, because people will always drift back for convenience and personal choice on top of that to where they got it from originally. People are creatures of habit. They may like a certain product for a certain reason, and they're gonna go back to it if they need to. And if you make it to the point where it's too expensive for them to buy it from the sanctioned legal stores, we're just gonna have a problem here. You know, we can't go back to an era of prohibition where we suddenly try to bring in government-controlled liquor, and getting, you know, your gin from the bathtub at an illegal gin joint is still much better and cheaper, or you're never going to win this problem. Make it so that it's just as affordable as the other stuff, but it's legal, and people will go towards it.
Vancouver had 400 pot dispensaries. How come so few pot stores and the rest of the Lower Mainland has none?
It's so frustrating. You know, I think right now, I forget how many stores there are in British Columbia, but like a shockingly low number of legal marijuana stores in British Columbia. And again, for those listening who don't like the substance, I understand. No judgment. Pretend I'm talking about, you know, potatoes or alcohol, whatever it is. If you're going to have something legal, you have to have a good plan. And it doesn't look like the government planned this out very well. So a substance that British Columbia is known for, BC Bud, and yet you can't buy it legally in very many locations in BC? I mean, how did they screw that up? They should have had better planning and better thoughts go into this, and better distribution. Hopefully this will work out in the wash over the next couple of years. They can ramp it up.
But totally incompetent. Just totally. You've got Washington State where it's been legal for 7 or 8 years.
Yep.
You could have walked 10 inches across the border. How come when they started from day one, they ran out?
Yep.
But
they
people
had more
wanted to buy,
locations.
people want to buy it legally.
Yep.
They do. They really do. And yet you have a government, John Horgan puts his hands on his hips like some angry, I don't know, person. I don't want to describe somebody, and says, we're going to do it right.
Right.
Well, you're not doing it right.
Right.
And why didn't you go to California, Washington, Alaska, Oregon, all these states where it's legal, and maybe hire their director of marijuana or whatever the position is? You know, you did that with BC, you know, with TransLink. You hired the guy away from Seattle, and I think he's doing a good job. Why didn't you hire Washington State's director of marijuana?
Or just employ best practices. We have folks...
Or their assistant director, somebody with experience.
Somebody. And see, this is the thing, is we have folks, especially politicians, who jet, it seems, all around the world to study these things, to find out how people did it.
Amsterdam, where they've been selling legal pot for God knows how many years.
But like you said, we have some in our own backyard, Washington State and Colorado, and I know that this is the thing, this is where it gets frustrating. I know that some of these government staffers were studying the best practices of these other departments and other regions and jurisdictions. So put it into practice. Maybe they just ran out of time because the Trudeau government sped it up in their review on when it will become legalized. Maybe they were caught with a bit too short of a runway left. But this has got to
Well, it's true. The NDP
better.
Government can't do anything.
This is the thing. It's hard to turn
It is
the
the slowest government to do anything about anything. It doesn't matter what the issue is. They don't do anything.
They're not known for being nimble and able to actually react to market changes or really legal changes very quickly. And again, it's something where people want to purchase it legally because they don't like breaking the law, and for obvious reasons. But the fact that we can't roll it out quickly enough in the legal framework is sad, because we have smart people, we have managers, and we have schedulers. Why couldn't have they done this better? And again, I really hope that now that the 420 Festival is done for this year, that they earnestly sit down with the other folks at Vancouver and that they fix this for next year. Because we can't go through this again where people are upset, where taxpayer dollars are being wasted in many of their views, that we're using police resources, and yet they're just talking past each other. If they want to call it a festival, call it a festival. If they want to try to charge admission in a different location that's easier to secure, do that. But they got to figure this out.
I just couldn't believe the panicked speech I'm hearing from the park board. And again, all the park board can imagine is, well, two people walking through a park. Is the fact that we have public spaces, they can't be used for anything else.
Oh, well, see, that's not true, because you can use
and grass,
public space.
was invented to be walked on.
Right. And see, so for example, in Ottawa, they'll have huge festivals, Jazz Fest, Tulip Fest, Winter Fest, and they cordon off public parks. They cordon it off, and then they have security right at the gates, and in you go. Like, this isn't rocket science. They should be able to figure this out. And if they don't want to use that park, find a different location in the entire area of Metro Vancouver to hold this event. And then make it a world-class event. Actually make money off of it.
Yes,
that might be a good idea.
That's the whole thing, is you could have the International Vancouver Marijuana Festival.
Sure.
And turn it into something like Gay Pride.
It's legal.
Where people come from around the world to celebrate, diversity. Why can't we do the same thing for marijuana? But people are treating it like it's plutonium.
Or, but this is the thing, is because it has been deemed legal, we can, our decision makers can't treat it like plutonium anymore because it has been deemed legal, whether or not folks like it or not. Like, I'm just talking about it as a legal substance.
But you talk to Jody Emery,
yeah,
that the penalties for marijuana now are onerous, and I can see court decisions where they'll strike it down. They still limit the amount of marijuana a person can possess. Why? You can have 1 million different kinds of scotch in your home. Why can't you have 1,000 different varieties of marijuana?
From a tax perspective, we can see a lot of legal problems with this because it's going to cost people a lot of money. And there's going to be huge legal fights. They're going to have to readjust, and then eventually they might even get pardons. And so what was all that spent for? After post-legalization, we really need to rethink this a lot more clearly.
Like I said when I talked to people in Washington State after it was legal, were there riots in the street? They said the day after was the same as the day before.
Which is generally what we're seeing throughout British Columbia, except, as is pointed out, people are turning to the black market because it is...
I'm sure the Hells Angels are happy about that.
Pardon me?
Hells Angels, it's their biggest money maker.
And so this is one of the arguments that people made in order to legalize it, so that if you don't have prohibition, you won't have it fueling organized crime. And so what are we doing? And again, it's disappointing that they weren't able to do this fast enough. And I hope they're able to roll out the legal sale of it quicker for people who choose to purchase it, because it will make it more practical and it will save taxpayers money.
And the way it's killing people still is the targeted shootings. continue in Greater Vancouver. They're in other Canadian cities. Look, by not having it for legal sale, politicians are still causing people to be shot on the street.
And it fuels the black market. And then there's also the arguments, of course, where you don't know what you're getting.
Absolutely
if you
not.
have it in the wide open Wild West market and you're buying it off whomever, like, you don't know what you're getting. Whereas, again, regardless of the substance, if it's a legal substance and you're purchasing it and ingesting it in some way, imagine doing that with alcohol. You wouldn't know what you were getting, and that's not really a wise decision.
Sure.
And so,
in India, where alcohol is banned in several states, people go blind or die from drinking homemade alcohol.
Because they're guessing, they're guessing. Whereas
turns out
now
that it's,
they actually have inspection facilities.
Yeah, it turns out it was methanol instead of ethanol.
If they need to, they need to be able to roll this out better and smarter. That's the issue.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Cypress Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Albemarle's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cypress's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cypress Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the Pink's CYDVF, and on Frankfurt's C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims. Now that Jason Kenney's the Premier of Alberta, what do you think is going to happen to the tax regime in Alberta?
Well, hopefully, because they campaigned on reducing business taxes, it puts the "we're open for business" sign back over Alberta, especially when it comes to natural resource investment and development. As we know, we've seen just a staggering amount of job losses in Alberta's energy sector. I think the last stat I saw was 160,000 people, and those were direct jobs. We're not talking about the mom and pop shops and the small businesses that had to close as a result of, the concussion of the energy sector. Those were direct jobs. And not only direct jobs where you're making about $100,000 a year. You get kicked like that, and that's why you saw that enormous voter turnout. Voter turnout was the highest they've seen since the Great Depression. It's astounding. And so we hope that means that they're serious about what they said and that they will reduce the tax burden for people and especially signal to companies and investors that Alberta's playing on their side again. And so hopefully they'll be able to bring more money back in there. But again, a lot of their future and their fate are tied up in other governments. They're landlocked. They're surrounded by other land masses, namely the Saskatchewan leading out to Quebec to try to get their oil out through Energy East, out that way, and then, of course, the Trans Mountain Pipeline coming out this way. And so they're going to fight hard, and I've worked with Jason Kenney before many times. He's serious. If he says he's going to alter the flow of the pipe and turn off the tap, quote-unquote, he will do it. And so that's where we're bracing ourselves. We want to see good results for Albertans, but we're also worried about British Columbians here because we're already paying the highest gas prices in North America. Imagine if they start turning off that tap. It's going to get ugly.
Kris, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you so much again for having me on and for caring so much about these issues.
My guest has been Kris Sims, VC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Her website, taxpayer.com. Her email, ksims@taxpayer.com. If you have any questions for Kris or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.